Hey everyone, it's I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a podcast with Kendrick Nguyen, who is CEO and founder of Republic. And you have had a lot of success over the last few years. How are you doing today?
Randy, thank you so much for having me. I don't know about success, my man. It's just, hustling and grinding every day through the summer. But
I,
I'm doing great. Wonderful to be here.
yeah, I saw that on your LinkedIn page, 24/7 hustling. But there is certain times where luck meets opportunity, and that's when you can become successful. You've had deals with startups such as SpaceX, Dapper Labs, Pipe, Robinhood, etc. Which investment do you consider your best? And tell us what the climate of the market was and what your mindset was like when you made it.
Oh, that's a really hard question. I think that the best investment for me so far, personally, has been in Filecoin. In terms of like the realized return, I was very involved in launching CoinList as a co-founder, and then as a co-founding advisor back in 2017. But obviously, love what they've been building. So the tech, but beyond that. Obviously, it took a couple of years for Filecoin to launch to get listed. And looking back, just believing in the team, the technology, and I think it's just at the very beginning of what that particular project, as well as for the industry, I think we're in the very, very early days, and I cannot be more optimistic about crypto in general, but particularly Filecoin.
So you had founded your co-founded Republic, I think about 6 years ago, and you've done very, very well for that since then. Over the last decade or so, ETFs have really taken a lot of dumb money out of retail investing. So most people who don't know anything about it can just invest in the VOO or the SPY. So question, how do you continue to find strategic edges for your clients and outperforming the S&P in an ever-changing market?
Oh, my man, I think investing is such a personal thing.
Mm,
And I think that it really depends on the risk and return profile of everyone. But Randy, I want to take a step back and
yeah.
share an observation that the vast, vast, vast majority of Americans, we're like the wealthiest country in the world, have not invested in the stock market. In fact, they don't even know what an ETF is. So exchange traded fund, like most people don't even own public equities. And I think we're, as a generation, is going to ushering a trend whereby anyone, everyone, would think of the world around you and what you care about and want to be an owner, an investor in it. So I think our goal, at least my personal passion, is that in the decades to come, say 2030, a college student, if he loves an artist, he's going to be able to invest $5 in that artist's new song, like truly investing and sharing some return. So I think that what I'm passionate about and what I think the potential, the value of our generation is to turn every consumer into an investor. So your question is hard in that it's asked about the existing product. And I think that people don't care enough about ETFs. What's going to make our world that much more prosperous are investment products that people deeply care about. And that's things like NFTs, things like arts and music and wine. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But it's that passion aligning with return. That's what I think is the biggest untapped potential about to be tapped.
I think so as well. And like I said, we'll get that into that in a little bit. I have a lot of questions and want your views on that. But there is one other subject in which I wanted your views on as well. There are many who dedicate their lives to philanthropy. Some, like Best Friends Animal Society, solve the problems they raise money for. Others, like Bill Gates, that give out malaria nets meant for mosquitoes, but instead were used for fish, decimating the fish population for the poorest people in Africa. So much so that the World Health Organization told him to stop helping. So, taking these examples into consideration, how do you feel about venture philanthropy? Do you think it could work, or do you think that idea might be doomed to fail because of the people that tend to run it?
Wow. Also, a loaded question. And this is a very subjective personal view of mine. Uh, I think the future, the true potential is do good and do well. Philanthropy has done incredible good and will continue to do so. But I think it's aligning each and every one of us desire to better ourselves, self-enriching a little bit, but aligning that with doing good at the same time. So the notion of venture philanthropy is somewhat not oxymoronic in the sense that listen, there got to be models out there whereby it's a venture fund, but the entirety of the proceed is going to go back to a cause. Great. I'm not going to pass any judgment on the Red Cross or venture philanthropy, but I really think that maybe it's just venture. For me, it's about running a venture fund, make sure that there's return back to your LP, but you investing in things that aligns with your and your LP's view of a better world. It may be climate tech, it may be technology that's going to repopulate the fish population, whatever it may be. But you don't need to donate all of that proceeds, and not take any part of it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's all about do good and do well for me, anyhow. So
That's a
I
great.
very much believe in venture capital as a force of good, and there may be a marriage with philanthropy, but that's not my personal lens or expertise.
You mentioned in your response a better world. In your mind, what is the most important invention or technology right now that could make the world a better place?
I think that there's a very underrated technology currently that has already transformed the world. Dude, Randy, you and I are probably at least 600 miles apart right now. And the audience, spread it all over. And the fact that we can have a human experience through Zoom, through webcast, through videocast, it has done wonder to the elderly population, to introverted kids that in just 10 years ago were almost like shut out of society. And I have, elderly uncles and aunts and grandparents and elderly parents, and I can see how this has just better their life in so many ways. So I do think that first of all, this very technology is incredibly impactful. But I do very much believe in blockchain as a technology that's going to be more transformative than perhaps anything else that we have ever seen, maybe even the internet, in that it allows for interconnectivity at the smallest level, the ability to fractionalize and allow people to participate and invest 1 cent. That's how anyone can be an owner and an investor. So a little bit self-servingly for myself operating in the industry to tote the value of blockchain as a technology. But hey, if I'm not so passionate about it, I would not be hustling and grinding 24/7,
Same.
building and having fun in it.
So you mentioned before music, art, theater, and Broadway types of financing, along with real estate or virtual real estate and crypto. Which category are you most bullish on and why?
Two things. I think that at least within crypto, I think more and more the key is still adoption, and the way to get mainstream adoption, true mainstream adoption, is the asset, the sub asset within crypto that's backed by something else, whether it's by real estate, by gold, by a company's revenue, by an artist product, may it be a song or an art. So I very much believe in the rise and the future potential of asset backed digital tokens. So that's one area. And the second one, I do think that movie financing, but for the masses, I mean, we all love. It may be The Lion King, it may be Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, whatever it may be. That's define our generation, past, present, and future. And I think the ability of everyone being able to invest a few cents or a few $1,000 or a lot more money into these kind of things, but particularly movie and music financing, uh, in my opinion, is an untapped asset class that will have tremendous potential because of the retail penetration potential within itself.
I'm so happy you said that because the things that I've invested heavily in, probably the most, is these new technologies like blockchain, like NFTs, like crypto, and I tend to go all in on things, and I put about 95% of my net worth into the Akomi ecosystem with the VV NFTs that we've spoken with, those digital collectibles, and the OMI token. And why I was happy you mentioned that is because OMI is a crypto that is now associated with a top 10 grossing app, which is VV. We've talked about that before. You said though that you happen to have issues with KYC, right?
I was just actually on VV earlier today, and as I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why I find VV so compelling is that it does align that component of passion, right? That people may love, like Marvels. There's a Spider-Man series digital collection on VV, and aligning that with the potential to realize the return. But absolutely, I think that's one example of what can drive true adoption for this space.
Have you ever before seen a crypto associated with a top 10 grossing app or anything akin to this before?
I have not.
So in the anything in the physical world, such as maybe opinion on Starlink and it being utilized for Bitcoin mining, I'm very bullish on most things that Elon Musk does.
Of course, of course. And I mean, listen, the question of a top 10 grossing app, I haven't tracked, which one's in the top 10, but like off the top of my head, I still think that there's such a divergence between traditionally adopted apps, web apps, and our space, the digital space. So I think this is still the very first iteration that is so impressive in having traditional brand agreeing, licensing, enabling the digital iteration for fan adoption here.
So personally, on the VV app, is your main thing that you would go for Spider-Man? Is it the Disney Golden Moments, Batman, Superman? What's your favorite fandom?
Do Spider-Man? That's like actually within all of Marvel, Spider-Man is by far that's like my fave. But it's about like the quality of it as well. So there's one Kodonko cat. Dude, it is.
Oh, I think we lost him. Oh God, I think we lost him. Turning off Wi-Fi on my other device because I cannot hear him. Shoot. Can anyone else still hear Ken? Not hear Ken. Oh Lordy. Yeah, yeah. I believe we are both frozen. Let me shoot him a text real quick. All right. Not so, guys. I will shoot him a message like you froze. Go out and come back in. So I am extraordinarily bullish on everything he said so far. Like I said, we have talked about VV in the past. We met a few months back at an event in the Hamptons. Oh, there he is.
Randy, I am back.
I
Apologies,
see.
technical glitch on my end.
Yeah. So sorry about that. We're good now. So we were talking about, yeah, we were talking about, I think it had something to do
Yeah,
with,
I was just like raving about obviously Spider-Man collection, but also
yeah.
it's about like discovering new things that like visually appeal to you. And it's funny because you're talking about it's almost like the experience of walking through a gallery or down a block with a bunch of galleries, and you recognize your favorite artist, but you also kind of like pop in and see what else that you may take a liking to and learning more. But yeah, listen, I'm not a huge NFT collector. I probably own like I don't know a few dozen, but it's not like something that I like in and out trading. But man, Vivi is just a special place for me. It's highly addictive.
Very much so. I was speaking to Janine Yorio of Every Realm recently about it, and she's got a whole department dedicated to digital collectibles, specifically for NFTs. Not 100% sure how much money she's allocated for that In the future, would Republic do something similar, saying, "Yeah, we're going to donate, or we're going to have 1% or 2% of our capital for this"?
Well, as you know, I'm such a big fan of Janine, and every RAM is affiliated with Republic in the sense that we are a shareholder. And of course, I wouldn't expect anything less from the fearless, CEO that is Janine Yorio, to have like this, collection and the ambition to donate. Uh, Undoubtedly, as we grow as a company, this different way to give back to the community is definitely something that we would be considering for sure.
Cool means. So in the, I don't know if you'd be able to say this, in the past couple of years since the pandemic, what has been the strategy for investing in hedging bets, and what has been the most successful opportunities that you've seen since 2020?
Wow, I mean that is a another loaded question, Randy. Given that in the financial space touches so many sectors,
Yeah.
um, obviously, I think at the very beginning, in Q1 or Q2 of 2020, everyone literally was expecting the worst. That means like, oh my God, we're gonna be in like a really long recession. But everyone could see right off the bat that when you saw that immediate, like I call it the flash crash of 2020, those who bought in, right, on like airline stock, cruises, Zoom, and in real estate have done like phenomenally well. So I think across the board, all different sub verticals of the economy has performed exceedingly well through the pandemic. The question here is right now, we're in this like, are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? Everyone is kind of expecting 2023 to be a lot worse. What should people be investing in? And I think that's a $60,000 question. I think at the end of the day, for myself anyway, I'm like a long-term investor. I'm not a day trader. Whether
Yeah.
it's a digital collectible on VV, whether it's a project like Filecoin, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum, or building a company like Republic, it is a decade-long holding undertaking. And if you take that view, invest in things that you passionately believe in, that is technology that you believe in, and team that you think are gonna be there and build it for years to come. I think that's kind of like a foolproof strategy rather than picking stock or asset classes or a particular project to invest in.
Agreed. I think in some cases you can bet on the horse or bet on the jockey. And with Vivi, let's say even if for whatever reason you found that the CEO and COO, David Yu and Dan Crothers, were maybe two steps away from being barely ambulatory, or you just decide to say like, hey, I like these NFTs and I like the partner statue or I like the pride statue. I do think the metaverse and virtual real estate will outperform a lot of these. I think like Vivi's Viviverse or Earth 2 or the Feesh, I think they'll have that as well. Are you familiar with any metaverse right now?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, every RAM is,
Oh,
obviously is,
forgot.
is my default answer there. But truth be told, as I mentioned, myself, not like incredibly active in metaverse or NFT, very much believing in the space. But I think is within crypto, the overall umbrella, metaverse is that much earlier. But which iteration in which particular metaverse is gonna be the dominant ones or one of the dominant ones 5 years from now, I think is anyone's guess. To your point, Randy, you said that betting on the horse or the jockey. If I may even dare to say that you can also bet on a particular sport, like horse racing, in this case, the sector that is
Yeah.
metaverses or even crypto at large. And within that, it's like, do diversify, pick a couple projects that you're passionate about, and hope that one would survive and then do really well a few years from now.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of the most undervalued ones are Earth 2, the Viviverse, which is not out yet, and then the Feeshverse, which is not out yet as well. You see a bunch of people commenting Feesh down there. It's really
Oh,
fun, super exciting.
I'm a huge fan. Now, I'm a little bit obligated by my compliance team to not like toe one particular project, but I very much second your sentiments, which is I think the most I can go the furthest I can go in expressing a view on a particular project.
I understand that 100%. So, what are some of the outside the box thinkings that you might have had, even for people like us that maybe a lot of are not understood by people that would never touch crypto? Like, for example, Gary Gensler the other day had said that anything outside of Bitcoin most likely is a security, and that kind of made a lot of people bearish. What are some of your counterpoints to that?
Oh man, Randy, it is so funny that we're in 2022 and we're still having like some of the same conversations as an industry back when 2017. Dude, US securities laws aren't going to change overnight to adapt to our industry. That means current laws and regulations tend to apply. And so the view that like most likely most new tokens are going to be securities is going to be true for the next few years anyhow. Or I have this to say, which is just do your own research as you dive in as a potential investor, as a buyer, and see whether there are like credible people behind a particular project. If you don't know enough to do your own due diligence and make your own assessment about securities compliance, try to see if they're like people that you think these guys or gals are not going to get behind this project unless they've like vetted it out. I think it's by secondary due diligence is what I would call it. But yeah, I think the industry, the question on regulatory compliance, whether you're dealing with an NFT, whether you're dealing with a layer one protocol, whenever you buy something digital or not digital, the question would be, is it regulatorily kosher? And I think there are numerous ways to make that assessment on your end, but unfortunately, that's going to be an ongoing challenge for our industry to navigate. It's not like a black and white metric to an application for anyone to assess. I know that's not super helpful, but I think your audience, Randy, are you so informed that hopefully you can be a point of like secondary due diligence for many folks.
I've been trying. I had Nick Ward on the podcast recently. He's on the front lines of many of the current financial stress issues facing the cryptocurrency. He's working on. He's at Blockchain Digital Assets Group at Armanino. It's the top 20 firm. I'll also have Perry Ann Boring on the podcast. On the front, she is the president and chamber of digital commerce. On the front lines of the most crucial policy battles in Washington. So I'm really, really trying to help educate people that watch the channel and get really. So again, thank you for coming on with this.
Randy,
Um,
if I may just add a point to that, I think one of the easiest way for anyone to look at the regulatory question, if you're not a lawyer and if you're not deeply experienced in the space, is simply this: if you buy, something, a digital token online, and you're hoping that's going to go up in value later on, and the team behind that is still actively working on it, it's likely a securities. You should actually Google and say, like, is this, is it securities wise? Is it compliant? Have they
yeah.
filed Form C, a Form CF, a Form A? And if not, it should raise a question mark. If you buy something that looks like just a piece of art to be consumed, done with, not unlike many of the things I see on VV, probably very likely that is consumptive in nature and is commoditized. So maybe the question of it being a security is much less of a risk that that's the case.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's, and again, not to kind of beat a dead horse here. Why I'm so bullish on Omi is because most likely because they have that big partnership with Disney. Disney probably put them through a lot of scrutiny and making sure using their lawyers that are probably paid $1,000 an hour, make sure that they are not a security. It will be listed as a utility token at first, then eventually as a metaverse token, which I'm very bullish on. And I know I don't have you for too much longer. I know you have to bounce soon. What is the one thing that you think is most important for the space in general, whether it be educating policymakers, making sure that the SEC doesn't have too much bite room, or just in general, just loving each other? What do you think is best for our space?
Well, I mean, obviously, adoption is the key to the entire industry. But what's going to continue driving adoption, I think, is the fewer bad actors that you're gonna have. And we're in a crypto winter, obviously. The good thing in being in a crypto winter is that you have real people, true crypto enthusiasts, technologists building legitimate thing. The law is gonna go along slowly with technological developments. I'm not worried about it, but you also can't really control that process very much. And it's a slow moving piece. I think that the most helpful thing to the industry is just having technologists building real things, real projects that actually provide value to the end consumers. And if you do that, then you manage to have project like Omi that manages to win a partnership with Disney, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do because you have no idea how conservative these industry giants compliance departments are, and the fact that they can see that and now adopt and through partnership. I think these things open up, basically bring the industry leaps forward, in a way that is very hard to fathom.
Agreed, 100%. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on. This means a lot, giving us your time. I'll end the broadcast now. I just want to get you off the talk to you offline for a minute. That's all right.
Yeah, absolutely, Randy. Thanks again for having me, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
All right, cool beans. Thank you guys for joining. And again, thank you, Ken. We'll see you